Okay, we're at a wood drop-off site in a fairly good-sized town, and so for the most part it's help yourself and you don't have to pay for it, so you might as well scrounge around and get what you can. Now right off when I pulled in, I've noticed we got some butternut here, white walnut. And I know when I open this piece
How
up,
can you tell that, Giz?
by the bark and the color right here. Dark inside the bark. It's similar to mulberry, but it's a little different with the white.
Okay.
So,
and what would make that piece interesting? I see, is that crotch wood?
There's the crotch wood, so when I cut this, I will cut it just like that. And you're going to see that beautiful grain joining these two limbs together. And so, and you can also see that the butternut has a little wider grooves than what you're going to find in the mulberry. So we're going to take this guy. In reality, all this wood looks like money to me.
Well then, me too, Giz.
You can see the beautiful grain in that.
What is it?
That's more the butternut. It's too bad they cut them so small. I like it when they leave them in a little longer
I see there,
pieces.
that is butternut too.
Yeah.
I see the red and the white. As you can see, there's a lot of wood here, and probably how many varieties would be here, Giz?
Well, right here we got apple, cherry, butternut, basswood.
Which one's basswood?
This one.
And again, you can tell by the bark.
Yeah.
This is
We
basswood.
got a nice big hunks of cherry up there.
What's this one?
That's apple.
This is apple. Right there is apple, and
Yeah.
this is
That's cherry.
cherry. So look at the bark, and you can tell at the centers what kind of wood. What's that one?
This is mulberry, I think.
That's an interesting shape.
That'll make a beautiful, beautiful shelf. This is apple. And
And look at
apple
the
wood
bark. Apple.
has a real tight grain, and it goes back and forth, the grain. When they made model ships in the bottle, they use apple wood for the smallest pieces because of its strength and that it's
Okay. And the fact that this has some curve to it, based on what you've made already, could make some very interesting floating shells.
what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to cut it here at an angle when I get home. And then this piece will be ripped this way because I got 4 crotches coming together plus the little one, so there's going to be absolute beauty inside there.
Okay. So Giz, tell me a little bit of the difference between working with crotch wood and a piece of wood that's absolutely straight. What challenges do you have?
Well, the thing is, you can see with the crotch wood, it's the hardest part of the wood. It'll warp it because it's holding the limbs together from breaking.
Okay, so you've got to cut and work with the hardest part of the wood.
Hardest part of the wood. Plus, I work with these crooked shapes, so everything has to be individual. That's why our shelves don't look all the same. We can't set up a jig and make 20 shelves all the same.
There we go.
Because,
Yeah, we can.
well, we could. I could. I worked that way my whole life in construction, using all that wood that had no character. Now that I'm a retired old geezer, I'm going to make what I want.
All right then. All right, what else do we have here?
Now I'm going to see what this looks like. Because this
Okay, wait a second.
is a bigger piece of apple, and I like the way.
Oh, this big one right here.
You see how the bark is twisting around?
Yes.
The wood's going to twist around like that. So when this grew, it grew in a twist, and I got a nice crotch right here, even though they kind of screwed it up where they cut.
So the crotch is right there. You can see the wood is twisted, which means the grain,
inside is going to have a lot of character to it.
which will make an interesting shelf. And there's my brother going down.
And then, if you look at the end of this, you're going to have 3 different colors in that wood. You'll have here, and then the heartwood.
So even with this old dried up wood, you can see the colors you'll be able to work
You can just see a
with.
little bit of it, but once you cut into it, you'll see those lines completely distinct.
And then once it's stained, or we use the mineral oil, that enhances.
It enhances it. And there's
the
a
grain.
big piece of apple, but
That's a
I don't
big
have
piece
my
of
big
apple.
van, and I'm 20 years older than I used to be.
What do you think that is?
I'm not sure if that's, might be a type of cherry, it almost looks like, but I noticed, you see that? There's grain in there.
Oh my gosh.
And you see, in a
Look at all
lot
the
of
colors.
a lot
What
of
is
the,
that?
it might just be a popple, but I'm not sure, because a lot of this wood that you get at these sites is stuff that's planted along boulevards and streets that the city plants, and a lot of it is wood that's not from the area. And this, I'm not sure, but we're going to take it along and see what's inside it, and then we just advertise it as a phantom wood.
Phantom wood, my favorite.
It's light. This is ash, and you tell this is still good enough to use. And this is where you get your beautiful wormy stuff. You like?
Oh, the ash borer.
Oh, here's a
Worm. You'll see a lot of the shells we have ash. I call it wormwood.
Yeah.
We're going to have a whole series on wormwood. I just have to get it onto the sites. But yeah, these wormholes are really interesting.
There's a little too much rot on around here, and I like.
So what would the rot do when you're working with it?
Well, I
It's
like
just,
the live edge, and so you're going to have that, and it's just.
it's just going to peel away.
Yeah, I mean, with some of the maple, if you have a little rot, they call it spalted maple, and people love it. But,
Yeah, they do love spalted maple.
yeah, but so they like some rot, but some rot they don't. So.
Spalting of leaves and branches, all at the city site. As you can see, there's tons and tons and tons and tons. So Giz, what exactly are you looking for here?
Well, I saw this, and I thought maybe there'd be a bigger piece, because look at
Is that
the grain in there. And
butternut?
I think it's a maple, or a, God, I'm not sure. It almost looks like a mulberry, but not quite.
Okay. And this is where sites like this is where Giz gets all of his wood.
Here's those branches for the apple wood right here where they threw them off.
Yeah, you can see little crab apples. And the wood that doesn't have an interesting texture or wood grain, or the crotches, goes into the fire to heat the home, or the smoker to smoke the sausages. What are you digging for?
Look at that.
All right, tell me what you got here.
Okay, a lot of people, when they get rid of the wood, they get rid of the crotches because they don't like splitting them. But look at that. I think that's mulberry or white walnut.
And the crotch is right here, and again,
Yeah, and but
that'll
look at,
create grain and stress points and interest.
here's the crotch, and here's what I'm looking at here is 2 children's or 3 children's chicory boards.
Oh,
Live edge.
live edge chicory boards, possibly mulberry. And there's more, same tree.
Yeah. But if you see this when it's faded, you cut that open and put a finish on it.
So is that color going to stay through this piece of wood?
It'll be more intense when you cut it.
It will. Okay.
It'll be like this all the way through.
Okay. This looks really twisted.
Yeah, you know what that is, and I didn't bring a little saw to cut it free.
Is that lilac?
Yeah, and that's about as big as you're going to get for a lilac.
Oh, Giz!
So-
How big is it?
About 6 inches. So we're just going to, there. And then
You're
we'll,
coming back for that?
yeah, I usually carry a little hand saw, then I free that up, and there's another one. So,
Oh, those are nice sized lilacs. They make the most beautiful shelves.
Yeah, if you're going to be a professional scrounger, you got to be prepared at all times, which I wasn't. I didn't bring my little saw.
Yes.
But whether you have a car, or a bicycle or whatever, if you can grab 2 or 3 pieces of wood for free, it's money. For this run, it's really good because we have a couple of mystery woods. Some we know what it is. We don't know what type of apple it is, whether it's a decorative apple or but it's apple wood. So when we cut into it, it will reveal what's inside of it. But from the end, I know there's a lot of contrast in it. So this is a good run.
Hey, Giz, how long will it take for these chunks of wood to dry to the point where you can start working with them?
The thing is, what I'm going to do with these smaller ones, I can just cut those on my bandsaw and I can cut them into the pieces that I want to use. So if I decide to make corner shelves out of them, I'll cut them to 1/2 inch or 5/8 width, and then I stack them and I put them in a rack and I put a strap on them so they don't bend. But it doesn't take hardly, a month and a half, and they'll be dry enough to use.
So those were the things that you had in my garage that had a little, was it a 2x2 piece of pine in between to assist in the drying? So every piece was separated.
And then you just ratchet it so it holds it straight.
Right.
And then you just keep tightening it as it dries. But the thinner you cut the wood, the faster it'll dry. And then what I do is I carry it and I take it outside at home every time there's wind and there's sun. And that accelerates the drying. Or we're in the process of making a solar wood kiln, and once that's done, then it'll accelerate the drying. And if I cut it to 3/4 inch, then I got to let it dry a little longer. But the thing is, when you scrounge wood, you have to look down the year, because the stuff I have in the barn and the stuff I have cut, some of that's been in there for 3 years.
So it's ready to go.
Yeah, so it's just an additional 10 minutes, so an additional half hour it's going to be, 45 minutes total. And looking at what I have in there, I probably have 2 weeks worth of projects I can make. Okay. But it'll take me a course of over a year to make them because I have to dry the wood. But
so once again, planning ahead to use free wood needs a plan.
I stow it away, and then next spring, after I'll process this, and I'll put it in the barns and the drying racks. Then I go up there, tighten the straps, and then I forget where it is. Then the next spring I'll have to rip everything apart and find what I got. And then I just start making stuff.
All right, thanks, Giz.
Yeah. But a couple of those unique woods, that one with that thin bark and that one fascinates me, so I'm going to cut it open and try and figure out what it is. And but that's the fun of it, the scrounging. You never know what you're gonna. It's just like Christmas. You never know what you're gonna get until you get in there and dig in under the tree.
Kind of like the surprise in the Cracker Jack box.
Yeah.
You done?
I'm done for today.
Okay, wrap it up.
Okay, we had a little road trip of scrounging. I mean, it took 10 minutes to get there, maybe a half hour to go through the different things. And we ended up with 5 different varieties of wood: ash, apple, a mystery wood, another mystery wood, and then we got some butternut buried back there.
And what's this big one?
That's an ash one, and the long one is a apple.
How many products do you think you can build from this one handful of wood?
Depends what I make, but I'm looking at a lot of boards, a lot of
charcuterie boards.
Charcuterie boards, some nice shelves out of the crotch wood. And if I get in and it really looks beautiful in some of this stuff, then I'm going to make some corner or salt lamp holders out of it. And sometimes what I do, you just got to get into it. I mean, that's what I'm debating of how to cut it. I know what it's going to look like this way, but I know what it's going to look like that way too.
So now you're going to have to stare at it day after day after day after day.
Because the thing is, with all this crotch wood, some of it is going to end up in the wood burner because it's the hardest part of the tree and there's tension in the wood. So when you cut it and you cut it thinner, some of it warps to the point where you can't use it.
Okay.
But that's just part of the fun of working with the more difficult parts of the wood. Straight grain is easy to work with. And this stuff, especially here, you can see how it grew like a corkscrew. That's going to be real interesting when I rip boards out of that, what they do. I'll really have to band them tight and dry it a long time to keep them straight.
So working with this wood, a huge problem is keeping it straight as it dries.
Especially, like I say, you can see how this grew, and that just puts tension throughout all the wood when you cut it. But that's what makes it the beautiful grains and stuff, though, too, because you won't have the beauty in it. And like I say, we don't make just straight grain boards. I did that my whole life. I won't do it anymore.
Okay.
Throw the best part of the wood away. Nope.
So, final word for your audience?
Scrounge away. It's free.